Yeah, and in fact, you bring up a good point about that, about the creator being perfect. Um, if God is not our object of worship,
Mm,
as I mentioned earlier, somebody will. And we see man, when man doesn't, like Friedrich Nietzsche, who says, if you don't begin with God, there's no left, there's no right, there's no up and down.
hmm.
And so, this notion of worship can't be avoided.
Yeah,
We default to worship, to either worshiping a God or desiring to be worshiped ourselves.
yeah,
And so now we find people that try to worship, Satan and these other routes which lead to oppression and bondage,
hmm,
that lead to demise, that lead to destruction. And so no matter which way you look, if you don't start with the true biblical God, every other route leads to destruction.
hmm.
And excuse me. Um and so if you look, I mean, just look at social media. A lot of the people that promote themselves, that advertises themselves, they want to be worshiped. They want others to be in all of them. And now I'm repulsed by that, because at the end of the day, who are you? A fallen creature, a fallen individual who makes mistakes, that is no higher than I. We all stand as equal human beings. And so, something like that, I concede, is narcissistic. But if in fact you are inherently awe-inspiring and maximally great and all good, and every attribute that captures goodness is God's essential properties, then I see nothing inherently narcissistic about that. I see it incumbent upon us to yield such worship to this great God. In fact, one of the things what's interesting about atheists is, because I think sometimes we just allow them to uh, go free with claims like that. Okay, so by what standard are you judging what
Yeah,
narcissism is?
yeah,
Where do you get this idea, and what's so repugnant and repulsive about narcissism according to your worldview?
hmm,
How do you justify knowledge? How do you justify aesthetics? How do you justify the good and the beauty apart from God? And so if you can't justify that, then your statements become
you can't
utterly
you
meaningless.
can't criticize it. That's
Yeah, you can't validly criticize it,
yeah.
because if you don't start with the moral lawgiver,
Mm.
then there is no moral law. If there's no moral law, then by what standard are you differentiating bad and good, evil, righteous? You can't even advance in your criticism.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they also want to borrow from our worldview and say, wow, that's amazing. That's beautiful.
Mm.
That's glorious.